How do you stay healthy long-term and effectively fight off pathogens? At certain times, we have to deal with more pathogens like viruses and bacteria, but there will always be challenges to handle. The best way to confront that is to be prepared by implementing habits that will make both the body and mind resilient. When we take a closer look at why we get sick, and also why we develop chronic conditions, the major reasons are much the same, with some variation, of course. A major health problem today is insulin resistance. According to the CDC and the National Diabetes Statistics Report, a total of 34.2 million people have diabetes in the US. The reason for type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance. A total of 88 million people aged 18 years or older have prediabetes. That's 34.5% of the adult US population. People with prediabetes are insulin resistant, but they're not so insulin resistant that they're diagnosed with diabetes. Insulin transfers the blood glucose into the cells, where it can be used for energy. When the receptors on the cells are exposed to high levels of glucose and insulin for a period of time, they will get less sensitive to the insulin. The result is that the insulin will not be able to transfer the glucose into the cells as efficiently as before. This causes free radical damage and inflammation. The following research has shown that high glycemic index food will, with time, increase inflammatory markers CRP, IL-6, and TNF-alpha. The same study also found that high glycemic index food increased LDL, high-density lipoprotein, a major cardiovascular risk factor. In addition, advanced glycation end products formed during hyperglycemia, high blood glucose, cause inflammation and endothelial damage. Advanced glycation end products are formed when glucose reacts with protein, causing tissue damage and then inflammation. It is very important to have an appropriate immune response when exposed to a virus like COVID-19. New research is documenting why it is very important to avoid huge surges in blood glucose. There are at least two reasons why hyperglycemia can be very dangerous during the SARS-CoV-2 infection. One is that an acute increase in blood glucose is accompanied by a huge increase of inflammatory mediators. This author also says, knowing the role of the cytokine storm in the COVID-19, this is an effect that must be avoided. Too much of an inflammatory response is often what leads to death because of massive tissue damage. Another reason that seems to be specific for COVID-19 is related to the binding of the virus to a cell receptor. Glycosylation of the receptor induced by hyperglycemia is needed for the linkage of the virus to the cellular receptor. This is what researchers of a new study from China found. Well-controlled blood glucose was associated with markedly lower mortality compared to individuals with poorly controlled blood glucose. These findings provide clinical evidence correlating improved glycemic control with better outcomes in patients with COVID-19 and pre-existing type 2 diabetes. There are several factors affecting blood glucose control. Four of the most important ones are the food we eat. It should be high-nutrient, low glycemic index food. Physical activity. Exercise helps transfer glucose from the blood into the cells. Not enough sleep will adversely affect the circadian rhythm and make us less insulin sensitive. Get between 7 to 8 hours. Stress will also increase blood glucose. Stay in a good state of mind. Several things can help you do that. Meditation is one. An easy way to help keep blood glucose in a low normal range is to take berberine, a natural plant derivative. In this study, fasting blood glucose was reduced with 34.9%, and the blood glucose after a meal was reduced with 43.9%.